Why wasn't this animated? Why wasn't this animated? Alright, so here's my review of the final issue of the Son of Dathomir series. This is a comic book series that was based off a Darth Maul arc that was written for Season 6 of the Clone Wars and was in the process of being animated when the show was canceled, but wasn't far enough to make it into the Lost Missions, which is on Netflix. And a real shame, because this has been a really good arc. So anyway, final episode, it's basically, here's what happens. Maul goes back to Dathomir to initiate his plan to kill Sidious, and it backfires. The Separatists invade. They attack Maul's. Everyone abandons him except the Death Watch Mandalorians. Mother Talzin comes back and gets killed, and Maul runs away, and that's it. And while I liked it, it had some cool action, some cool visuals. I feel like this one suffered the most from not being animated. Like, it felt a little too thin, a little too short, and I feel like something is missing. And it's a good arc. I just feel like there's something. There probably was a bit more to it, and that bit more to it probably would have made this issue a bit more effective than it really was. So, first off, kudos to the artists for doing their best. I mean, like, this was clearly intended to be animated and will look really cool. Especially the lightning duel between Mother Talzin and Sidious. That looked really cool. Or Dooku being possessed by Mother Talzin. All that looked really cool. And the action was much better illustrated this time around. But Mother Talzin's death didn't quite have the impact that it should. And again, I feel like a lot of this has to do with the fact that it's anime. Like, in the show, you had this big, intense, dark scene. There was probably couple more scenes that probably would have fleshed the story on. There was probably some dramatic, intense music going. Like, this probably would have been intense, really a dark, intense scene, and probably would have been way more impactful had it been animated. But yeah, I wasn't affected by it. Like, again, I feel like there was a bit more to this story. I mean, I have no doubt this is the story, but I feel like there was a bit more to it in the original comics, because, I don't know, it just feels a little too straightforward, and it's like, I don't know, everything just fell apart, and I feel like there should be more to this. Again, but it was still. And also, it's weird that Mother Talzin doesn't have a physical presence. Like, she needed to be re-resurrected. Like, I don't get that. Because she appeared and disappeared, so unless the events of the disappeared caused Mother Talzin to, like, lose her physical presence, I have no clue what's up. Although, also, but her death scene was pretty cool. Like, that was a really dark, gruesome death. Like, it's just, oof, like, let me see if I can find a picture of it. Like, it's really tragic, like, you know it's coming, and, like, you have this really gruesome shot right here of her getting stabbed. Oof. And then, picture of her and all her mojo coming out. Oh yeah, while I'm doing this, I'd like to say I do like the idea of Mother Talzin's powers being taken a toll on by resurrecting Maul. Like, I like the idea of, like, Maul just can't come back. Like, there's a cost. Wait, where is it? Right there. So yeah, that's pretty gruesome. And even in the show, I like how the comics, I like how they captured that. Although I do wish that we could have seen this the way it was intended, because this is a major character death. Like, one of the main characters on this show fucking died in the most gruesome way possible. And the fact that we didn't get to see that the way it did, like, again, this was probably a big dramatic death. It was probably an intensified dramatic music, and I mean, I'm glad we're getting to know this, but still, I mean, the fact that we aren't learning it, seeing it the way it does, kind of nerfs the impact. And so, a couple more things. One, there's a new character that considers. There's some Mandalorian with black hair we get to see without their helmet. I'm wondering if there were more plans for that character, like whether or not they were introduced earlier in the arc and now we're just getting to see him, or if this was a character they were setting up now and was going to play a bigger role in the season 7 Maul arc. But yeah. And they probably were going to make a season 7 Maul arc. So yeah, so overall, this was a really good arc. I mean, my only major gripe with it was that it wasn't animated. I feel like it was clearly intended to be like, it looks great. There's a great story here. Like, thankfully, like it doesn't suffer that much from not being animated. Like, there's a great story, but there are certain moments, especially in the action scenes, where I feel like it's very clear this was intended to be animated, and while the artists try their best, like the action and certain moments aren't as powerful as they would have been if they had been animated, especially this ending. But again, like that's a nitpick. This is still a really good story and a really great arc. It probably would have been one of the highlights to season 6. Again, it's just certain scenes would have, especially Maverick Townsend's death, would have been more impactful if this had been shown the way it would. And again, I hope the show comes back. I doubt it is, but if we aren't, I am glad that we got this story. I mean, this was a really solid arc overall, minus the conclusion, which was probably better handled in the show. And yeah, really solid arc. One of the highlights. I'm really glad we got to hear this story, because I was really worried we weren't going to learn what was going to happen to Darth Maul. Like, when Sidious said, I have other plans. So I'm glad we got to learn that, but I'm glad we got to learn the rest of this story. And I'm glad we did get to learn what happens to Maverick Townsend, even if it wasn't the way for the medium of the creators intended. I'm glad we got to hear the story. And if the show isn't going to come back, then I hope we get more of these comics or novels. More so comics, because, for the sake of visuals. But if Dark Horse... unfortunately, Dark Horse is no longer making these comics. Now it's up to Marvel, and they're more interested in reprinting comics right now. I really hope that they continue this, because there is an audience for this that would love to hear the rest of the stories. I know Filoni and the writers would love to get their stories out there as well. So I really hope Marvel takes it up. And I wrote a letter to them asking them to write more Clone Wars comics. I hope they respond. If you're watching this, please write to them, because I want to learn the rest of the stories. And hopefully we get to see the rest of the Clone Wars someday. And especially Maul's story, because I feel like there's more. Like, this is more about the end of Townsend, and this isn't the end of Maul. Like, there's probably another end plan. Like, Sidious's line about this is the end of Maul and this is ensured our future, I feel like they might have altered that a bit to sort of say this is the end of Maul's story, when it's not. There was another arc plan, probably. And I hope we get to hear it someday. And yeah, that about does it for my Clone Wars vlog. Sorry if I didn't have much to say, but not much happened. I mean, stuff happened this arc, but I feel like in the show it might have been better explained, but I digress. So, yeah, that about does it for these vlogs for now. You're still going to see Clone Wars stuff from me. I am going to continue doing my top 12 favorite Clone Wars episodes, but that's about it as far as these vlogs, unless the show comes back. But I'm not done yet. There is more Clone Wars stories being worked on. There is, this summer, they're going to be releasing a novel that is based off this arc written about Asajj Ventress that would have been for Season 7, but Season 7. So I'm going to review that as a Clone Wars vlog when it comes out, because this was intended to be part of the show. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for now. So, again, really good arc. Definitely pick this up if you want. Show your support for the Clone Wars, and it's also a really good read. This is a really good read. I'm glad picked this up. Glad we got this highlight arc again. Just reading this just makes me bummed the show is canceled, because, again, it's awesome and it shows the show still had a lot going for it. But, alas, so yeah, I really don't have that much else to say, except, again, this was a great arc that should have been animated. So, I'm going to leave it at that. So, until next time, this is JStars360, and may the Force be with you.